The Kings didn't need shirts last night. It didn't matter. They didn't even need uniforms. It was gross. They got spanked by New Orleans. We've been, unfortunately, talking about it today, so we'll spend a second on that between Indiana, which looks like a hard-fought, left it all out there loss compared to last night. I said earlier, Frankie, I'm sure this wasn't what happened, but God, if somebody told me and leaked it that they were all on Bourbon Street till 5 a.m. Saturday night, that's exactly what a team that was on Bourbon Street till 5 a.m. would look like Sunday night, like trash.
Yeah, it's Mardi Gras. I think it's close to Mardi Gras.
I just saw the video of it yesterday, as a matter of fact. That's right.
Yeah, they talk about, was it Miami flu? I mean, maybe this is the case of New Orleans flu. I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of, it's concerning. I mean, I don't want to say concerning. I mean, I'll say it doesn't feel good. It definitely doesn't feel good watching the Kings come out flat in back-to-back games there. And in Indiana, of course, there's a bunch of reasons to get up for it. There was Sabonis versus Halliburton, the last matchup of the season, well, not counting the All-Star game now between the two. I think that there were some emotions running high. I mean, I was on with Dusamo before, and we were all pumped up, and then the Kings come out and just lay an egg. And, yeah, they make it look like a hard-fought battle, quote-unquote. But last night's game was a completely different story. I mean, I think when you see the injury reports come out and you see that a team's missing not one, not two, but three impact players, it's a very strange feeling as someone who watches the team or supports the team to kind of lay your head back and groan and say, oh, my gosh, not again. Like, it's almost like you hope all the players from opposing teams play. And I don't know if it's the Kings getting down or getting comfortable. I think that's something that I personally think is what it is. They might let their guard down a little bit when they see these teams come in and they're on the second night of a back-to-back. I think they're 2-8 against teams on the second night of a back-to-back this season. And the fact that the Pelicans are missing Valanciunas, who's given the Kings problems over recent years. They're missing Zion Williamson, who's for sure given the Kings problems when he's healthy. It's a head-scratcher. And it's two games that don't make you feel good, but the Kings have responded to adversity before this season. They've responded to 2-game losing streaks, even a 3-game skid. And, of course, we know they started 0-4. They have to do it again. They have to turn things around tonight. I mean, in my mind, I don't want to say must win in February, but it's a game that you really should have is tonight and Wednesday. You should come home with a 4-3 record on the trip. In reality, it wouldn't be that much damage done if you come home 4-3, but it doesn't feel good watching last night's game. It doesn't feel good at all.
Frankie, if we're looking at the last 6 games, I think we've seen Kings with 2 of their 6 largest, in those 6, 2 of their largest margins of defeat, including last night. And in 3 of those 6 games, 3 of their lowest offensive outputs. What's going on with the offense here? Because, look, we know the team isn't the best defensive team, but they've shown they've been the number 1 offense. I don't think anybody's liked what they've seen. What are you seeing that's missing offensively?
Shots aren't falling, and there's a lot of bad things kind of happening at once. I mean, Keegan Murray, who has played so well over the past 2 months, he's back-to-back Rookie of the Month winner. I think he's averaging around 2 points per game over the last 3 games. He's shooting, I mean, let's just say there's a 0 on the 3-point and field goal percentage. When that's happening, Kevin Huerter is going through a rough stretch. He's shooting under 40% from 3 at this point. When your shooters aren't knocking down shots, your offense is going to struggle. And it's not just a couple of games. It goes back to the Toronto game where the Kings scored 95 points. Since the Toronto game, the Kings are shooting 33% from 3. They're averaging only 108 points per game. That's about 11, 12 points beneath their season average. So when shots aren't falling for this team, a team that can't play defense, and we've seen how awful they've been defensively, when you take away the offensive aspect of things, there's really not much that this team can do, and they're getting beaten. And that's what happens when Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, when he's been consistent. And, of course, there's the De'Aaron Fox factor. De'Aaron Fox is the engine that makes this offense go, and they've really missed him over the past couple of games. The offense hasn't looked the same. Davion Mitchell, there have been some concerns raised about his play and how he hasn't been able to lead the offense, and even he had to be out down the stretch against Indiana. They had to run with Malik Monk, primarily at the point guard. That's concerning. So, obviously, you have to hope the Fox and everything that's going on with him is okay, and he can come back soon and help kind of reignite this offense. But when the offense isn't working, the defense can't be relied on, and that's going to spell trouble for the Kings.
Frankie Cartoscelli joining us. It's also kind of concerning as we're talking about concerns that, and I know it's not apples to apples, but look at what the Grizzlies' record was last year without Ja Morant. Look at how many times over the years, all I have to say to Kings fans is, look at all the times over the years that whether it was the Spurs are sitting Tim Duncan and Ginobili or the whoever's sitting LeBron or, you have these super duper stars, no offense to Fox, but I'm saying like MVP candidate superstars that are sitting out, and somehow these teams are able to function, and in some cases function well without them. I don't know if that's an indictment on Davion Mitchell, and I certainly don't expect the Kings to do things long-term without De'Aaron Fox, but if you're a team that has any sort of hopes at making any sort of noise in the playoffs, you probably should be able to put your backup point in there in your bench and figure it out. They're all off right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of comes down to some things this week. Maybe there are some things on the table that people didn't think were on the table before. I mean, I think that you can't stand by and watch a second unit struggle the way the Kings have, and especially when you see what other teams are doing, like Philadelphia. The Kings played Philadelphia without any players, and they completely, they came into Sacramento in a packed house, and they pulled out a narrow win without some of their best players. And the Kings have had trouble with not performing well when De'Aaron Fox is off the floor. And Davion Mitchell last year, it was a different story. I mean, the Kings obviously were well out of the playoff picture, and Chris Watkins, a buddy of ours, he liked to compare it to last year to Ray McCallum numbers, which I don't know if that's a jab at what Davion was doing, but it kind of makes a little sense when you see how he's performed in situations where the Kings need wins. In the situation where the Kings need to keep pace in the West. I mean, the West right now, it's been comforting watching the Kings win games and see where they are in the standings, but it's kind of a mirage looking at the 3 spot because they're only 2.5 games back of the 10 seed, and that's concerning. The Kings need to kind of they need to touch up the depth, and I think Monty McNair is going to look to do that. Defense obviously needs to be a key area that's an area of need coming to Thursday, but you need a backup point guard, and if it's not going to be Davion Mitchell, I'm not sure what they're thinking. But you need someone that can come in and be a placeholder for De'Aaron Fox. It's the same thing when Domantas Sabonis is off the floor. Yeah. And you see the Mason Plumlee rumors coming up, and that's someone I think the Kings have been interested in for a while. But you need to be able to survive when your stars are off the floor. And right now the Kings simply just can't survive with De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis off the floor, and that's a problem.
Well, real quick, just a real quick follow-up. Is that more on the value of De'Aaron Fox, or is that more on the rest of the team for completely falling apart without him?
I think it'd be a little bit of both. I think it's more on the team, though. I mean, winning teams, you don't play your star players 48 minutes per game. They're able to get by, like you just said. Like the Denver Nuggets, they can survive 5, 6, 7 minutes without Jokic off the floor. The change in pace in the game is so significant when De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis are off the floor, or both at the same time. In the very rare instance that happens, they can't afford to have both off the floor. And right now, the Kings are having to play Sabonis, 38, 40 minutes per game. Fox similar, and you see what happens when he's out. That's something that I don't know is sustainable for a team that's the 3rd seed in the West as we kind of go on further in the season when games get more important and some of those stars you're seeing sit out, which should benefit the Kings, right? When people are sitting out, they're going to start playing these games in March and April when we get down into crunch time, and the Kings need to be up for that challenge, and to be up for that challenge, they need more depth, and as well as I think they've played this season with guys like Trey Lyles, Malik Monk, TD's had his times off the bench. Maybe they need a little more. And that can come to the backup point guard position, more of a distributor, more of a table setter. And then, of course, on the front line defensively, the Kings are getting killed in the paint every night, and that doesn't fall just on the starters, but on the bench as well. So there's some work to do, as well as the Kings have played. And, I mean, a year ago right now, they had lost 7 in a row. They were 18-34, I think. Things are good as far as the record goes, and the overall vibe still on the season are high, but they have some work to do.
Frankie, is there a move that you like personally that you'd like to see the Kings? You mentioned some names, but anything you think would really help them and boost them going forward?
Plumlee's been someone I've had my eyes on for a while, just because of the fact that he plays. I'm not saying he is like Domantas Sabonis, but he's someone who looks to pass and someone who can kind of operate the offense out of the block. He's not a shooter, but he's like as far as shooting the basketball, but he's a scorer around the paint. He's 3rd in the NBA in field goal percentage. That's something to me I think that could be effective, having someone who can score at a high level around the rim. But it might be some of these moves we don't really see coming. I mean, that's kind of the way Monty McNair usually works. He kind of waits in the weeds and things kind of pop up, and you say, whoa, I didn't see that coming. But he's very calculated, and I know that he has his eyes on a couple different avenues. And to me, though, Plumlee is one that they're linked to. I would not be upset about that at all. The Kings need some strength down in the post, and he's the guy that has been that his whole career, even going back to his times at Duke. So Plumlee's the guy I have my eye on, but obviously the Matisse Thybulle and other impact defenders up there, the Kings need one of those. It's just the market's heating up. I know Thybulle's getting the Atlanta Hawks are really in on him. The Lakers have called, which the Lakers are calling everybody, of course. And then the Warriors, who just lost Steph Curry, we could see them kind of get in the mix more for some guards that they might not have been getting into before. But until we know how long Curry's out. But I do like the idea of adding someone like Plumlee who can pass the ball in the block and rebound and shoot a high percentage, because the Kings need that off the bench. They're not getting that from Chimezie Metu. They're not getting that from Rashawn Holmes. That's a position of need, I think, that kind of outweighs the guard spot right now.
Well, if there's one thing you can almost certainly count on, it's that Frankie is going to be doing research, writing stuff, appearing on shows. We will be talking about the trade deadline. Deuce and Mo, Nick and Rami, we will all be giving you the absolute best coverage of what the Kings could or maybe will do come Thursday. And you can almost guarantee that whatever happens when it happens, we will have not mentioned one thing about it because we just won't know, because that's how Monty McNair operates, right, Frankie? And we can do what we want, but, Tyrese Halliburton, right? Come on.
Well, that came out of nowhere. I mean, that's
right.
like it was done.
Right.
And then it's like, good morning,
Yeah.
trade happens.
All right, well, good luck with your topless chicken frying maintenance guy fence stuff, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, come by for some chicken sometime, guys. I'll fire some up for you.
Take it easy. That's Frankie.
The only place dealers will say.
That was Frankie.
It was.